They showed up with badges, guns, and arrogance. They thought they were arresting another black man from the suburbs. What they didn't know was that the man they came to handcuff was the same one who'd helped build the system that trained them. Before we start, hit subscribe and drop A efforts emoji in the comments to stand with truth and justice. It was a quiet morning in Brookhaven Estate, one of those picture-perfect neighborhoods where lawns stayed trimmed and neighbors smiled for the HOA newsletter. But behind the smiles, there was tension. New families had moved in, and some old ones didn't like change. Among them was Marcus Reed, a 38-year-old cybersecurity expert and retired military captain. He had moved here with his wife and 2 daughters for peace, not trouble. He was respected at work, humble at home, and known for helping local teens learn coding for free. But to a few in the neighborhood watch, he was just that black guy with too many deliveries. One evening, Marcus noticed a white SUV parked outside his home. Same spot, 3 days in a row. He didn't think much of it. Until that morning, at 7:10 a.m., while he watered his lawn, 2 men in tactical vests walked up the driveway. "Are you Marcus Reed?" One barked. He nodded calmly. They flashed cheap plastic badges that read HOA Security Enforcement. Marcus frowned. "I didn't know the HOA had armed officers." The bigger one smirked. "They do now. You're under arrest." Neighbors peeked through blinds as the so-called officers handcuffed Marcus in his own yard. His wife screamed from the porch, "What's happening?" What did he do? They ignored her. The blonde woman holding a clipboard stepped forward. She introduced herself as FBI liaison, Agent Laura. But something about her posture, her badge, her voice, it all felt off. Marcus didn't resist. He'd seen real law enforcement before. He'd trained them. He stayed calm, observing every detail. Serial numbers scratched off the weapons, mismatched boots, no body cams. When they pushed him into the SUV, he spoke quietly. "You boys don't even know what kind of mistake you're making." Inside, the vehicle smelled like gasoline and fear. One of them whispered to the other, "This dude's too calm." "I don't like it." They drove for 20 minutes to an abandoned construction site. There was no precinct, no warrant, no backup. That's when Marcus laughed softly. He looked straight into the fake agent's eyes and said, "You should have done your homework. I helped design the federal training program that catches impersonators like you." The woman froze. The men exchanged glances. Their fake confidence cracked. Marcus continued, "And right now, everything you're doing is being streamed to a secure backup through the chip in my smartwatch." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Moments later, the sound of real sirens filled the air. 5 SUVs surrounded the site. Real FBI agents stepped out, badges shining, weapons ready. "Drop your guns. You're under arrest for federal impersonation and kidnapping." The imposters froze. The woman, the so-called FBI liaison, started crying. "We just wanted to scare him. He didn't belong in that neighborhood." Marcus watched as they were cuffed and dragged away. The senior agent, a tall black man, walked up to him and shook his hand. "Captain Reed, it's good to see you again, sir." The neighbors gathered later that afternoon, pretending to be shocked. The same people who had complained about his new fence were now whispering apologies. But Marcus didn't gloat. He just smiled and said, "Justice doesn't need noise. It needs proof." A few weeks later, the story hit national news. Cybersecurity expert exposes fake police in HOA scam. The video from Marcus's smartwatch went viral, 4.7 million views in a week. But Marcus didn't celebrate online. He went back to his students, back to teaching kids about truth, power, and technology. When one of the boys asked him, "Sir, weren't you scared when they pointed guns at you?" Marcus smiled. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's knowing you've been here before, and still standing tall. The world has enough people who speak. What it needs is those who act right, even when no one's watching." If this story inspired you, hit subscribe, drop a emoji in the comments, and share it with someone who still believes truth always wins.